Kopenhaver's series of works is a bold exploration of contemporary themes, seamlessly blending provocative concepts with striking visuals. Each piece challenges societal norms and encourages viewers to engage in critical dialogue with culture and the complexities of life. Katelyn's approach is both innovative and daring. Her provocative nature is evident in the way she tackles difficult projects, inviting her audience to confront uncomfortable truths and question preconceived notions. This fearless exploration not only captivates, but also empowers viewers to reflect on their own perspectives, making her contributions to the art world both significant and impactful. Katelyn Kopenhaver doesn't just create art, she sparks conversations that linger longer after the experience. Hi, this is Donalyn Patakos. Welcome to Portrait Presents. We're at the bar today with Katelyn Kopenhaver, interdisciplinary artist residing in Miami, and her art focuses on challenging truths and lies in society. And I think that you've made a real name for yourself. You know, it's funny because you think about words when I think about your work.
Thank you. I'm doing the thing.
Right? One of the most important things people can do in general is to sort of refine the fine art of speaking to people.
Right.
What you do stirs the conversation, right?
Sure.
In many, many different ways. I went to your studio and I've been thinking about it ever since. You know, what you do and how you present it, whether it's in photography, performance, or in written word.
I'm happy that I lingered in your mind. One of my MOs, it's like hijacking people's brains and implanting myself in there, which I guess is also the same business model as branding, as advertising, as media. I am using that business model because it's interesting to sort of think like your opponent, right? But not filling the mind with things that they claim. This is how you should look, this is how you should behave, this is what you should eat, this is what you should think. But broadening people to those levels of predation, because they all are forms of predation, whether it be mental or emotional sorts of things. And the medium is the message too. So a lot of my pieces are interrelated, where the photograph of me with the art and then the art itself, it's two ways to access it. An example of that would be, I've done this with like an animal hide, where I printed "It's okay when Bill does it," and then I took a self-portrait with the hide. And then both of these things were exhibited side by side. So you see the hide, then you see the portrait, and people have this like, aha moment. I love when people have, when I see a twinkle go off in someone's eyes, or I see their wheels turning.
You never really know where the pasta is going to stick to the wall with a message, right? So I like the fact that you kind of try it in different ways. And I love how you walk around with your art on. I'll see you at an opening somewhere and you're rocking some fur. Tell me about Predators at Prey, because you really got a lot of, attention with that series of art. And how did that start?
I'm trying to go back to the conception of that project, which is the fur coats.
You were in a cold place.
I was in a cold place called New York City. Very dark, very cold. I was working with words. I was like getting my undergrad at SVA. I'm working with words, and I'm like trying to put words on photographs, and I'm like, it's not working. This is like contrived. I was working with Prey and Prey, AY and EY. And months earlier, my dad got me this mink fur coat, and it was $10 at an auction. And he was like, hey, I thought you would really like this. And I accepted it to be polite, because like he was like, and my mom was like, you should resell that. PETA's gonna come after you. They're gonna put paint on you.
You're gonna get paintballed in the street.
In my head, I was like, that would be an awesome performance. Let them put paint on me. Yeah. The coat was big, and I just like didn't know what to do with it. And I put it in my closet in my apartment in New York. And I'm in the photo lab. I'm working with these words, and I have epiphany that goes off in my head. I leave. I go get the fur coat, and then I bring it to the other print lab at SVA, different street, different whole other building, And I'm like, I want to print these words on the back of this coat. And the lab techs were like, this isn't going to work, you know, da da da. And I was like,
every great story starts, right?
Yeah.
It's never going to work.
It's never going to work. Yeah, you're wrong. And I was like, you know what? It was $10. I have a feeling. Let's just try.
Right.
And I printed it on the back of the fur coat, and I rushed home and I showed it to my brother. I was living with my brother in Hell's Kitchen at the time. And I was like, Brent, look at this, look at this. And he was like, whoa, that's really crazy. And I had that moment of, you landed on something. And I've had these moments every now and again in the studio making something, and I pay attention to them. They don't always come. Sometimes I'm like, okay, this is good, Katelyn, this is great, you know, but it's like I always want to kind of like
that eureka
one-up
moment
myself.
every once in a while. It's
Exactly.
so important. Yeah.
And then I started doing a bunch of fur coats. So then I started thrifting fur coats, but the phrases were all about the idea of being a hunter or being hunted and what that meant. So I have a silver fox that says, "You are not following me," which is sort of like a funny double entendre. But
that's a great thing to wear if you're a woman and you're living in New York City.
Totally. Yeah.
Do you think that really helped you a lot in certain situations?
It's every once in a while I have an asshole that'll be like, "I'm following you," and I'm like, "Oh, very funny, you know, please fuck off." And this is also where I started to really notice the public participation in my work, because I don't wear the parade coat anymore, but I used to wear it. I only like exhibit it, but people would like kind of look at me, like, because you're like, "Oh, you're wearing fur." Right, and they already have this idea, and this is where the fur coat is so loaded, and I love that. So I'm using that already imported meaning and the controversy around that, and then I'm subverting it with language and printing on it. I'm essentially defacing it or ruining it, as some people would say. And so people would look at me and they would kind of judge me, and then I would sort of turn around and they'd be like, and they'd be all like fucked up. And I was like, I love putting people there in that like sort of space between order and chaos, you know, so to speak. And they don't know if they love it or they hate it, and their brain starts to glitch out a little bit.
Awesome.
And
I dig better than like an awkward pause, right?
It's great. It's
Because
fabulous.
so many people are so quick to give their opinions on a lot of things, but one of the things I like about your work is that you kind of challenge that perception.
Totally.
Of, wait, where am I getting my information from exactly? Like, at what point do you think society, everything is based on public sentiment? And if you're a certain person or a certain color, like you're supposed to think a certain way.
Right.
And that's not necessarily healthy for anybody. Right?
No.
Because we lose ourselves. And I think that a lot of the messages of your work is to make people think for themselves.
Totally. I mean, we also live in a time now where no one can see themselves as whole, right? It's essentially impossible. We have all of these methods of communication. We have all of these forces at play that are constantly fragmenting who we are. And they're claiming to help us, like, no, this is who you are. And this is what, you know, and it's like, no, you're actually doing the opposite of that.
I agree.
Where people have no idea who they are, and then they're kind of resorting to these media agencies, or it's just like living in the world, like you're on social media. There's constantly forces at play that want to tell you who you are.
I think they're bullying techniques is what they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
But
telling
they're-
me what I'm supposed to be thinking. Right?
For sure.
Because we're both women.
Right.
This is how we should be thinking.
And they're usually delivered with like compassion, or they're delivered in a way that is seemingly kind, or which always really gets under my skin. I don't like deceivers. I don't like deception. I don't like liars. But
you're very interested in them.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah, totally. There's
So much material there.
completely. I mean, this is like getting back to the predators and prey work. After I did the fur coats, and I was doing installations and performances in the furs, and then I did 2 really brutal videos, and then a performance and work on mattresses. And then after that, I was getting really interested into the psychology of different predators, you know, psychopaths, sociopaths, narcissists. They're like these cluster B personalities. And a lot of these personalities actually run public perception, and they run the public narrative, which is really interesting. And so so that kind of kept me really busy for a period of time. And, you know, I went down a whole like Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell Whirlwind,
Behind us.
Exhibit A.
Yeah.
And, you know, there'll always be people that I like think about, you know, them in particular, but it's like their web and their network is so vast, it's so interesting, but also not getting lost in that world either, because it's
A dark tunnel.
It's a dark tunnel, it's a dark world. These people started appearing in my dreams and it was not cool.
You just feel it. And I think those people, you feel something. Like,
sure.
And it's unsettling. Like, just let it go. Like, erase it. It's like taking a whiteboard and erasing it, because putting your energy into something like that could be helpful in the message, but not healthy, right?
And also something I realized from that work and moving on as I mature in my thinking and concepts and all of this, it can't just be angry. It can't just be full of rage. And I had a really good mentor of mine. He said once, it has to have these other sort of aspects. And in my mind, when I was 22, 23, I'm like, well, why? It could just be about that, you know?
Can't force things down people's throats.
No, not at all.
Right?
And I like to think at the time I actually still wasn't doing that, but I wanted to access other parts of myself that aren't just that.
Subtle.
Yeah, it can be a lot more subtle.
Yeah.
And I can explore those topics in these different ways. Predation through sexual predators, but mental, financial, emotional, it's broad.
Yeah. And tell me a little bit about what you've done over here, because you know, you were talking about how these predators and people, they come in really subtly or really sweet.
Right.
The focus on a smile, it's something that's really powerful, right?
Yeah.
So tell me about this piece back here.
I was thinking about these people. Now I'm really much thinking about the face, which is sort of interesting, but also makes sense in a way. What's behind a smile? And it was a question that I kept meditating on, and I was like thinking about it, and I was like writing stuff down, and I made a list, and a really chaotic, insane list. And then I was thinking about Ghislaine Maxwell's smile and how reading about her for so many years prior and how she's like very charming and charismatic and British and all of these things. It's easy.
Seemingly very inviting to people.
Exactly. Yeah. And how she would like greet these women at the gate and bring them in and then abuse them. And I'm like, that's crazy. And also the idea of a female predator, which isn't spoken about nearly enough, I don't think. And then I was like, well, I can't just have her, I have to have me in there too. So it's like this duality. But some people...
Why you?
I wanted to... It's a great question. I wanted to make it more personal as well. So it's personalized, and I consider my smile to be the light part of that.
Okay.
And pairing myself with her is risky. And people are like, why would you do that?
People don't know it's you. It's more of a message, right?
Yeah, and some people don't know it's me, which is really interesting. And I also
And
thought...
it looks very similar.
It does.
Well, look at it.
And that's the funny thing too, right? So I actually, sometimes before I make work, the title comes to me. So I thought of a title of Ghislaine Maxwell and I, a self-portrait. When I thought of the title, then I'm like, what does that look like? And I went on the computer and just found a picture of my smile, and I was like, this is perfect. And then when I'm talking about it, people have this like aha moment as well. I see like the twinkle, they're like, oh my God. What, that's you? It's like, which one is you? And it's like, exactly. Which one is me? Which one is her?
Right.
And also, we all have the capacity to kind of contribute to this like evil machine, knowingly or not.
Yeah, think about all the people that were ever at a party with her that are now smiling and drinking champagne or whatever they were doing. I mean, it's the same situation. You can be in the same environment, but they are amongst us. And the association is a little daunting, but at the same time, who would know?
Right.
Who would know in that moment?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
It's really deep. Right?
Thank you.
I want to talk a little bit about, you have such a good personality, but we were talking about how when you lived in New York, you lived there for most of your 20s, or if not all your 20s, and you were working in a bar, which you were telling me earlier, everybody should live in New York, and I agree, right?
Yes.
But I think that you should also be stuck in a social setting where you're taking control sometimes.
For sure.
But the conversation must have been very stimulating for your work. And how did that bar situation evolve into what you're doing today?
Yeah, definitely. consider my bartending era, which was way longer than I wanted, to be the birth of my performance art practice as well, because you get behind the bar and you do have to hold yourself a little differently, and you do have to kind of speak definitively and confidently, and people get fresh or arrogant. You have to stand up for yourself, or people are too drunk, you have to like cut them off, and then you have to deal with that, and blah, blah, blah. And you are sort of like this sex object too. You're like on display. And me just being so interested in messing with people and playing with people, it was a really interesting venue for that kind of birth of this performance. I mean, and I was always like writing things down on like receipt paper and like thinking, and I have an archive of receipt paper with marker notes on it. I should like scan them in and make them into a book or something, because they're weird and funny.
The ideas.
Yeah. It gave me a lot of confidence too, because you do have to deal with problematic
whatever walks through the
personalities.
door.
Yeah, exactly.
It could change any second. You can get the depressed guy, whose girlfriend just left him, and then you get the people that are in the bachelor party coming in. And you kind of have to adjust your vibe, right, to theirs, or maybe vice versa.
Yes. No, it's interesting, the idea of also matching people's tonality. That's a skill, I think, for business. It's a skill in any social setting.
Absolutely.
And it's not manipulative. It's not like being a chameleon. It's just reading the room.
I also think it's sort of intuitive and compassionate.
It is, for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, if we all were stuck in our mood and somebody walked in and maybe needed a smile or something, if you could sense that, I think that's a really beautiful thing when you're in tune and you're paying attention.
Totally.
I think if you're doing something like that, it's a really good tool moving forward, because you can almost sense safety. You could sense where there might be a little bit of trouble or danger, and try to fix it and adjust it. You were studying photography? Is that
I was, yeah. So trained as a photographer, I'm incessantly hard on myself with photographs. Photographs I choose to show people, photographs I choose to print. And I think that is a byproduct of the institution and studying something so closely and intensely. And then I was using the camera as a means of income, which I still do, which I love to do and happy to do it, but shooting editorially and taking people's headshots and portraits. And then I moved to Miami and I took a step back from the camera a little bit. And also this is a time where everyone's a photographer. Photographs and images are swarming us constantly.
Yeah.
So
I mean, every mom, right? Everybody, even the kids.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Little kids that take pictures now. Everyone's a photographer. Like when we were young.
Genius. Yeah.
When we were young, if somebody wanted to take your picture, you kind of got a little introverted maybe. It was a different time. And how did you feel about that when you were growing up and your parents would try to video, because you're so outgoing now, right?
I absolutely hated it. And I would cry and I would, run away. I did not like being on the camera. And well, this makes sense that I became a photographer so I could have the control back, right? Get behind it. As I evolved, I'm going to flip that. No, I'm going to be in front of the camera, because I was using it as like a crutch, right? Safety, for sure. And if you really want to break through and make an exceptional work of art, you have to be vulnerable. You have to put yourself out there, and you have to let people see it also. Yeah. Some people are like, your work is so genuine. And I'm like, as opposed to what? Like,
opposed to a lot of things.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a nice compliment. It's a nice gesture.
It's thoughtful.
It is. In my head, though, I'm like, so are people making not genuine work?
Well, yeah, I think so. I think so. Maybe that's controversial to say, but I do. I think that people tend to go for trends. Like, during COVID, let's just paint all these table scenes. These landscapes. That's going to sell.
Yeah,
and there are definitely eras of things, but I feel like a lot of people just jump on the bandwagon because one of their friends did it and had a great show, right? But where are you in that equation? And people feel that when they look at a canvas. They can sense whether or not something's genuine. But what you do is so much more thoughtful, because you're trying to spike a thought. You're kind of punting that into the air and seeing who catches it and who doesn't. And depending on somebody's mood, they could take that one way or another. It's like reading a text.
Yeah.
Right? You're in a bad mood. You think it's a bad text. 2 weeks later, you reread it and you're like, oh, my bad.
Yeah.
Do you get that when you walk around from your art?
get different just reactions from people. Like,
for sure. I do think a dose of humility is always good too, and like accountability of, oh wait, that was my bad. I misread that. And it's important too, because everyone's so like morally righteous. They're kind of waving their virtue flag, or they're doing things because in the name of compassion, and perhaps they don't necessarily know why, but
it's true. They're just sort of following the leader.
Right. And I'm like, maybe we should all question the leader. I don't know. Or this person over here. Let's take a look at that. I'm always aware of things that get a lot of attention too. I'm like, why is the media focusing so hard on this? Which means something else is happening in the background.
100%.
Naturally. Yeah. So
how is it that you can so eloquently put these phrases out on things where you're not polarizing people?
I don't know, Donald.
It's really well thought out.
Thank you.
Like, give me an example of one of your favorites that really got it.
I mean, it's okay when Bill does it. That phrase I actually came up with years prior to printing it on the hide. And sometimes that happens too. I have ideas and I'm like, not yet. It has to also line up with like a personal experience meets a cultural relevance. And then when that timing is right there, it's okay when Bill does it, it's poignant and it's like pointed, but it's also broad because we have bills. I kind of break up the text, the word does into do, so a nod to missing persons. There's bills, and that could be like money. It could also be bills that are past. So there's a lot of depth into that one, which I like a lot.
Yeah, the puns can go on.
It could go on and on, and then adding me and like the self-portrait, it's like I'm sort of inviting the viewer behind the veil and in this way. And then sometimes I think of things like, you've been lied to, and then I'm like, well, you've been a liar. So it's like kind of pointing out and pointing in. Interested in patterns too, how the media reports on certain things, the language that they use, the language they don't use.
Depending on the station you're watching.
Yes, yeah. Sometimes it's the same damn thing.
Right. Spun a different way.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm also, when I'm writing too, I'm thinking about all different kinds of viewership and eyes and how people, I'm like, well, how could this look, how could this read to this person? How could this read to this person? In each word, there's already an imported meaning in the reality that we live in. So I need to make sure I understand that, and then I can play around, because I don't want it to be too broad and too open-ended, because everything by default is open-ended.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't want to give it away too easy either.
Right. It's like lead me there.
Yeah. It needs a little work. So it was kind of a convoluted answer. It's me doing a lot of thinking, basically. Who's looking at it? And also, I'm interested in the viewer and what they're doing with their body when they're looking at it, say like in a gallery. I'm working on this video right now called Questions for the Camera, and I'm thinking about installing it in this way where it's like I pop up here, I pop up here, I pop up here. And it's the installation is part of the concept. It's contingent upon that. I think Bruce Nauman is great at this too, right? He had a piece of meat like kind of dragging on the ground, and you naturally start to follow the meat. That it's also part of the concept of what he's trying to say. Right. Now I'm participating in it. That always gets me going too.
Yeah, taking the bait. Right?
Taking the bait. Yeah, well, and that's what a predator does also, right? You get there and you're like, fuck. And I like to do that with my work. I kind of bring people in and they're like, fuck, now I have to think about this and think about myself, And I'm like, yes.
Like, when did you know you were onto something with the written word?
Probably with the fur coats. And then from there, from the fur coats to writing instructions for commuters, which is like a 1 through 16 step. It's a performance video of what I think I would do if I was getting abducted by a cab driver. And then I started also I took creative writing in my undergrad, and I still keep in contact with that professor. And every now and again, I do like workshops with her to like refine and refine and refine. But it was really in college that I discovered that I had like a writing voice. And then translating that into video and then me speaking, now it's like another thing, because how language is read versus spoken hits people different.
I mean, there's tonality.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. A lot of your work is connects with the inside conversation that someone's having in their own head, or that own mood that they're in can just be taken completely different.
The main body of work I made in New York was this fear-ridden paranoia. I actually consider that my identity work. That is like me going into some deep paranoias and fears that I needed to confront, which I did. Now it's like gone.
You more than confronted it. You walked around with it.
I walked around with it.
You walked around with it. Like, talk about confronting something. Like, I'm in the street of New York with this on. Here's my message. Like, to the people that, or seemingly the people that would scare you to begin with. So it's a very brave thing to do.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about the face, right? And I've been thinking about the smile, clearly. And now I'm thinking about eyes, because I had a title that came to me that it's always in the eyes. And this is something that I actually say a lot too. And, a lot of great artworks and ideas are actually in our language. So paying attention to what I'm saying and how I'm saying it. And I also listen to other people a lot too. My brother, he said one time in the kitchen in New York, he was like, please pay attention to the man behind the curtain. And I was like, wait, that's brilliant. And I put that on the back of men's suit blazers. And so I started working on this list of eyes. And I actually had the list before when I was in New York during 2020. It was like very somber and very drab. And I'm like, we don't have to go there. We could make something a bit more tender. And I had a friend of mine gave me an assignment. She was like, Katelyn, make something tender. And I was like, okay. Now I have to
It's a positive challenge for you, right?
It is a positive challenge for me, and it's good for me. And then I realized that's a great assignment, because I get to go into another part of myself, which is really important. And came up with this list of eyes that's actually it's sweet. I mean, it's also, though, it's really desire, guilt, love, kind of these everyday emotions, or these deeper emotions that people have to contend with in different aspects, in different ways. And I think it's interesting what is behind people's eyes, and looking at people and how people see one another is
It's interesting because you could say a word, sad, happy, confused, angry. And in my head, I envision people, just their eyes and what they look like. From my experiences,
interesting.
You remember a moment, you remember a person, you remember the color of their eyes. You remember if they were bloodshot or crying or just squinting. And so it's true. It's so much expression that comes out of that.
Totally.
So you get to move from what's being said to what's being seen.
No, for sure. I'm also doing stuff, I'm playing with the actual paper and the ink, and I'm adding water, and the piece is like sort of crying in a way. I'm actually quite proud of it, because it's not what I expected from myself necessarily, but then this is also the narratives we tell ourselves, right, as artists. It's like, oh, well, you're interested in predators like this, you keep to that. And it's like, no, I mean, I'll always be interested in those types of people and things and phenomena, but it can all come into play. It's all coming from the same umbrella, so to speak. And I think it's nice to have a bit of softness, every now and again, where I also kind of keep people on their toes, and it's still cohesive.
Give me an example of some of your favorite phrases that you put out there.
Favorite phrases. You are not following me. The pray. Who owns who buys who. That's a good one.
That's a great one.
Yeah, I want to do that one like big somehow. I don't know how. Right. You've been lied to, you've been a liar. And then I have like bodies of text that I have, like a text that's called To Have an Original Thought. And it's all about if we have any original thoughts anymore. And it's kind of this ranty stream of consciousness, and there's like bits in there that are really nice. And then in the eye piece I'm talking about, it starts with a longing behind the eyes, which I thought was quite beautiful. I was like, that's nice. And I've also been thinking about questions, because I'm like, well, I'm always asking people to ask questions, so I should just ask some fucking questions. Yeah. I have, for this questions for the camera piece, I have a few that are, what have you taken without me looking?
Wow.
Do you prefer to be archived or forgotten? Are you sorry? Is one. And I was like, it's simple and basic, but I found myself also repeating it, and the repetition is interesting of that. All of these kind of like deep questions that can be applied in these different contexts, but through the initial sort of lens of the camera and asking questions to the camera. But it's all about like how we're being seen and how people are seeing us.
And our preoccupation with that.
Yes.
I think that internal dialogue is so important.
It is.
And
Yeah.
I often will fix my internal dialogue if I think it's going a certain way. So these questions, I don't think people ask themselves enough questions. I think that you go on social media or you're watching the news or you're just having these conversations that are recycled from this. And the original thought, I do think, is being lost.
Yeah.
Because we're not questioning ourselves enough. We're not questioning, what we want to learn, independent of what we feel comfortable with.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So everyone wants to just sort of feel comfortable in a little box or a little group.
And the artist is essentially one of the only people that can play with the consensus reality.
Which is a really important point.
Yeah.
Right?
No.
You're just trying to strike up a thought or a conversation. I just saw this thing, let's talk about that, or just think about it on the train ride home, or
Right.
in bed at night, which I think is probably a major feedback of yours. Even the way you display things is very witty.
Yeah,
right?
thank you.
Like you'll sort of juxtapose things and you're like, oh, and the texture.
Yes.
And you use a lot of texture.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
There's always like a bit of grit in my work too, and it's imperfect and it's not refined. I mean, it's conceptually refined, but refined in terms of the lines are perfect and this is perfect and you go to the edges. I'm like, fuck the edges. It's like, pa, pa. And like when I'm screen printing, really moving the screen around and then I like wash it out and I go back into it. And even like with photography, when I was printing in the darkroom, black and white, I was never using tongs. I was just
Picking it up with your fingers.
Yeah. So toxic, by the way. Don't do that. I like this idea of imperfection because life is imperfect and people are imperfect, and leaving room for that and space for that is really important. To have like a timelessness about art and about your work, even like in music, in comedy, in writing. I've been reading more back to the classics. So I read Brave New World, Aldous Huxley. I read Animal Farm, George Orwell. Never read it. Let me read it. It's not something that's like cool at the moment. It's deep and it will go on.
I once heard this phrase, it was great. It's like, your brain is like fertile soil. It's not really particular about what you put into it. It'll grow. I think it was Earl Nightingale that said that. It'll grow nightshade or it'll grow flowers.
Right.
But that's really something you have to be accountable for.
You do.
Manifest through your friends, through your mood, through the things you have, the places you go. And those sorts of environments are key to your success or your failure. Right?
Yeah, completely.
So growing up in Pennsylvania.
It's funny because when I was bartending in New York and people are like, oh, where are you from? I'm like, Pennsylvania. And they're like, so are you Amish? I'm like, no. I'm from outside of Philly. Like Pennsylvania is a wide state.
Yeah, but you and the Amish have in common are horses.
We
right?
do. Yeah, I started horseback riding when I was 6. And there was a barn up the street from my parents' house. It sounds kind of bratty, but I had a little pony, and her name was Missy, and her show name was Mischief Maker, and she had one blue eye and one brown eye, and she was so mean. Who
named her?
So mean. That was the name that she came with from the barn.
Kind of reminds me of you, though, right?
I know. Yes.
Good pairing.
I know. And that's why I think I loved her too, because I'm a mischief maker and I'm a troublemaker and I like to poke people. And so, my mom, I probably gave her so many gray hairs because I would ride backwards and I put the jumps up and there was no trainers around. I'm just doing like wild stuff. And I've been thrown off, I've been bucked off, I've been reared off. I've been thrown into walls, all of these kind of like brutal things in a way. However, it's been my metaphor for perseverance, yeah, overcoming things. You fall off the horse, you got to get back on.
And you
competed
as well.
I did. Yeah, I competed. I jumped.
You were number 1 in the country at some point, right?
I was. Yeah, you're sweet. I'm shy.
I'll brag for her.
Thanks, Mom.
Kind of an accomplishment. Right?
Yeah, thank you. That part of my life competitively had to kind of come to a close. And then, I moved to New York.
Hard to ride Missy in New York. Huh?
Yeah. I had a horse named Socks. His show name was Knee Deep, and he was also nasty, had more personality than most people I've met in my life, but I got all my like teenage angst out on him. When I was mentioning, being thrown off and reared off, that was him. I was at the barn every day. He would be like wishing his tail at me. Just saddling him up was exhausting, but it taught me a lot. It taught me work ethic and being consistent and seeing results and actually putting work in and then getting awarded for something. Having a sense of accomplishment at a really early age is super important, I think, but also a sense of rejection.
Yeah, and conflict.
Yes.
Right? Resolution.
Yes.
Figuring it out yourself.
Figuring it out
yourself. Which is one of the
yourself.
biggest lessons that you can teach your child.
Absolutely. I used to get a lot of thank yous with my pony Missy, because she would refuse jumps. So I'd be around and she would stop and I would try to get her to go over the jump again. And if you get 3 refusals, the judge says, thank you. And
thank you, Missy.
I would leave and I was like, oh. It's funny because it's like art in certain ways. It's like we apply to stuff, right? It's like, thank you, but it's all part of life. It's all part of this game that we play in this world that we're living in, which the art world is like so interesting. There's a way better word there, but it's a lot. And it's political, and it's personal, and it's not personal, and it's all of these things and more.
But it's like anything else. Like I always think about whenever I'm not sure if I could do something, it's funny, but I always think about Colonel Sanders, right?
Yeah.
Like he didn't even make it till he was 70 or 80 years old. He was old when he finally, he had been trying to sell that chicken idea for years. So you should never ever give up is the point. And now he's memorialized in that realm of food. Yeah. Right? So you just have to keep knocking on the door, keep doing it until it works. Yeah. You have to remove so much of your ego to do that. You could be humbled so quickly by somebody, or just a written word of a review, or you could really be brought down. But I like what you're saying, because it's sort of like, all right, you just get back on the horse.
Right.
Like, so you got thrown in the wall. Stand up. God made us that way.
Yes, you have to be resilient, because
your people are out there.
They're out there, and there's always going to be someone that has something to say.
I think that when people have this misconception, because they're so guarded as children, parents don't want them to feel pain or rejection or whatever. I think when they do experience it as adults, these are people that become drug addicts or bad things happen to because they don't know how to handle the rejection. Yeah. They don't know how to handle not doing something perfect.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So the imperfections are really the gifts.
Yes, absolutely. A silver lining for sure.
So what are you looking forward to in the next year?
Ooh, well, completing a new body of work, video, printmaking, a lot of video ideas actually, but from those will come installations. So I'm very excited to manifest and then also show my new thinking.
Good.
And these topics that I'm exploring. Studio visits, continuing of course to apply to things, more exhibitions, more shows. You gotta do the work. So
you know what, honey, you don't even need a show. You are the show. You can just walk around and be the show. And I think that's an amazing evolution.
I do that sometimes.
But that's what makes it so cool.
Yeah.
So I really want to thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for
spending
having
time with us. Yeah, thank you.
You were great.
Beautiful, beautiful talk.
Thank you.
And we're gonna make a drink now.
Yes.
And where can we find you, I wonder? Where do you want to be found?
Not on the side of the road. You can find, it's so funny, we're critiquing social media, but here we are. Life is a contradiction. You can find me on Instagram, it's just Katelyn Kopenhaver. You can find me in Miami. Thank you for having me. It's been lovely.
Thank you. So much fun. Thanks. Let's, so today's drink.
Yes, what are you making?
The whole
what are you
concept behind this is being in a bar, and it's funny, I'm talking to a bartender, so I really had to put a lot of thought into this. I'm like, I have to make a bartender a drink. But it's about who you are and what I've perceived. And I'm gonna call this one the Truth Tonic, because I think that's what you're really searching for in your work, but also for people to find their own truth.
Yes.
So let's make a tonic. Maybe we can manifest that into the universe for everybody. But and it's light. It's bubbly, it's a little fragrant, and it's got a little bit of mix of herbs.
That's all me.
Yeah, just like you. So I hope you enjoy it.
Thank you. You can make it strong. It could be punchy.
You know what? That's even better.
Excellent.
Okay.